Okay, so this is the latest upgrade for the L322 Range Rover. It is specifically made for the L322 Range Rover because the wires are cut to a very specific length to allow for a seamless install. It's the secondary battery kit, which will allow you to install a secondary battery into the rear compartment of your Range Rover, and it will provide all sorts of benefits to the L322 electrical system. So before I go to the installation part, which will be part of this video later on, which will show you how to install it into the L322 Range Rover, I'm just going to go over a couple of the points on the bench so that you can get a better grasp of how these things work. So these kits come prefabricated, the wires are pre-cut and the terminals are already connected to the ends of the wires for you. It comes with these quick connect sturdy terminals for the battery, and that will be for your second battery. And incidentally, the second battery that you use doesn't have to be the same battery that you have already installed in your Range Rover. You can use any kind of battery. So you could use an old battery from a Fiesta, you could use an old battery from a Vauxhall, but obviously the bigger the battery, the more benefits that you are going to get, because it's going to be able to provide more power. It doesn't have to be a brand new battery either, it can be an old battery. Obviously the best case scenario is that you have a brand new battery and it's the same size as the one that exists already in the Range Rover, which is already a very big battery. The one that I have installed in my Range Rover is one from a BMW, and that works perfectly well. It's the same size. I'd also like to say that some Range Rovers have absorbed glass mat batteries, and other Range Rovers have lead acid batteries, and I can say that you can actually mix the two. So if you've got a secondary battery that you want to be lead acid, and then you've already got an AGM battery installed in the front, then it will still be compatible. There are technical differences when installing these different types of batteries, but you don't particularly need to worry about the technical details. Essentially, the charging cycle is a bit slower for the AGM batteries, and the benefits of an AGM battery are there for quicker power delivery and such. But I don't want to make this video too technical, because I want this video to be for everybody, and these kits are very simple to install, so I want to try to keep the video as simple as possible. So like I say, you've got two big terminals here, and that will attach to your battery that you're going to be installing into the rear of your car. It'll just sit in the boot. Straight after that, we've got a fuse, so if anything goes wrong, this fuse will blow and protect your vehicle. You've still got all your fuses intact from your existing battery that's in your car, so from both batteries' perspective, they've both got fuses on, so if any of these wires or any of the existing wires that are already in your Range Rover short to ground, then your vehicle's going to be protected in the event of any electrical failure. And you can see that these components are very sturdy. Moving down the line, we come to the relay. Now this is a 100 amp relay. Essentially what will happen, the reason why this is here, like I say, I don't want to get too technical into the video, but essentially if you were to connect two batteries together, what would happen is that the one with the higher voltage will try to charge the other with the lower voltage, and when they start to then become at an equilibrium at the same voltage, then they'll still try to fight to charge each other, and then eventually both batteries will just die, and that'll happen quite quickly over a matter of days. So we can't just connect both batteries together, and we use these relays with a control signal in order to be able to switch the relay on. So what will happen is that we'll get into the car, we'll put this fuse in a particular place, which we'll go into later on in the video when it comes to the installation of this, and as soon as you turn the ignition on, it doesn't need to be in the cranking position or the running position, it just needs to be, the ignition just needs to be turned on. What will happen is this relay will turn on and then connect both batteries together. So the benefits of that is that the L322 has a very demanding electrical system, and that's the reason why they have already pretty decent sized batteries in there to begin with. But when you turn your car off and you lock your car doors and you go into your house for the night, your car battery is actually still drawing quite a lot of power, and there are many people that have errors on their dashboard when they come to try to start their car the next day, and such errors are air suspension inactive, transmission limited gears, and there'll be a number of errors, HDR inactive, there'll be a number of errors like that. And for the unsuspecting person that isn't part of any of the Facebook groups or any part of any forums or doesn't know about any of these common issues, whereas normal people who are conversant with the L322 problems would understand that it's just a battery error rather than being unhinged by the scary messages that you get, which are air suspension problems and transmission problems. They would understand that it's just a low voltage on your battery, and then charging the battery and starting the car back up will clear all those errors and your car will work as normal. But it still means that you've got a parasitic draw, and it can mean that you have quite a weak battery. But there are different kind of thresholds for what one would consider a weak battery, and a battery that would be considered average. These batteries obviously stay in the car for a number of years, and this kit will allow you to breathe some more life and value of the L322, because it means that you don't have to replace your main battery when you start to get those errors. In an ideal world, you would, but the batteries are very expensive, and you can replace the front battery if you wish, but adding a second battery really does seek to mitigate a lot of these problems. If you were to take a current clamp and get a measurement of the current draw or parasitic draw of the Range Rover when it's in its off state, you would see that it draws quite a lot of power, and it's drawing a lot of power because it needs to keep certain elements of your car on, such as the ECU and the alarm and security system, and there is I think a fan called the flapper fan for the AC inside the car, which is another massive battery drain, and some people even try to disconnect that fan because their cars don't start in the morning. But with this kit, it doesn't matter if you leave that fan running or not, or any of those other parasitic draws. It doesn't matter if they continue to run and your battery is in a position or in a state where your car won't even start. It doesn't matter if it's in that position, because you've got this secondary battery that at the point that you turn the ignition on starts, cuts in, so you've got this secondary battery that essentially kind of jump starts. If you could imagine somebody jump starting your car with two leads, jump start your car, and it means that you're going to be you're not going to be left stranded in the middle of nowhere because you've got a weak battery, two, your alternator may not be charging your battery very well, and those are all separate problems by themselves, but it means that you can kind of go further for longer, have the peace of mind that you've got this secondary battery that's going to help start your car along with the main battery, and it also allows you to run some secondary appliances, if you want to call them that, or devices that can take quite a lot of power. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I run in my Range Rover in the back are these cheap inverters, and I can connect this to the secondary battery via these leads, and what it will do is allow me to have 230 volts, 240 volts in the back of my car that I can run chargers off, and printers. If I'm going somewhere and I need to print something off, I can put the printer in the back of my car and print things off. I've got 230 volts outlet in the back of my car, but I've also got a 2000 watt amplifier and a big subwoofer. And if you were just to use your main battery in that circumstance, then it's going to tax the battery even more if you only had one battery in your car. And you'll find that after a number of weeks, if you don't charge your battery, then your car won't start if you just leave your car for a number of weeks locked and not used. And that's not a position that we want to be in. And given the circumstances that we're in right now, with the UK being on lockdown along with the rest of the world, these cars aren't getting used nearly as much as we would want them to, and that causes a higher probability for your battery to be drained to a point where when you want to come to use your car, it's not there because you can't start it, and you're required to then charge your battery. Whereas this secondary battery, whatever state of charge you left it in when you turn the ignition off, no matter how long it is, it could be weeks, it could be months, your secondary battery maintains that same charge. And so when you turn that key to crank the engine over to start your car, it doesn't really matter what charge the front battery is in, the rear battery, the secondary battery, will be jump starting your car along with the front battery, and you're going to have a very, very, very slim chance of not being able to start your car due to lack of power, because you've got a secondary battery providing double the amount of power. And that's within mind every other accessory that you might be running. I've heard of people using these secondary battery kits that I've created to have even electric blankets in the back of their car to keep their dog warm during winter. So it's taken me a while to make this video, because I wanted to make sure that it was a nice sunny day for me to create an install video for you guys and girls, and hopefully make a clear instruction of the pros and cons of the benefits of using this kit. What can I say? We'll go into the installation, I think, and I'll show you how easy it is to install. It's very easy. Most of the work is done for you, and we'll take it from there. We'll go to the car, install it, and I'll show you that it will only take you about 5 or 10 minutes, and there's not much that needs to be really discussed. It's very self-explanatory, especially with all the labels, and the lengths of the wires dictate pretty much. Once you've got the relay in place, and there's a very specific place where you put this relay, the wires will dictate themselves where they need to be plugged in. But we'll go there. I wanted to make an installation video because it's going to make it a lot easier for people to install. If you've got somebody there to install it with you. So I'll leave it there, and we'll head to the L322. I'm going to be installing it on a 2007 4.2 V8 petrol supercharged Range Rover, but you can install it on any of the L322 Mark IIIs, and then for the other L322s 2010 onwards, you're going to have a very similar install. There's not going to be that much of a difference. You can go to Land Rover, luxurylandroverupgrades.com. If you have any problems, then you just use the live chat. You can send pictures in the live chat, and then the turnaround time is very quick. In this video on YouTube that I'm creating now, in the description there will be a link to the Luxury Land Rover Upgrades listing of this battery kit, and then there'll also be an eBay link. If you want to use the eBay link, then go ahead, you can just use eBay, and you'll also get the same support from me on there. But utilising the luxury Land Rover website means that there's less fees to pay on eBay, and more of that money will go to developing future upgrades. And I'd just like to mention that there are quite a number of upgrades coming out with everything that's been going on now with COVID-19. It's been quite difficult to develop under these circumstances, but I have about 4 or 5 upgrades coming out, so just keep if you want to subscribe on this channel, and then when the new video comes out, then you'll be notified, and I can keep you up to date with the latest upgrades to keep your L322 modified and modernised. So we'll head through the L322 now. It's a long enough introduction, and we'll install this battery kit. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that this is the battery that I'll be using. You can see it's quite a big one. It's from a BMW 3 Series diesel, and this is the one that I'll be using. But I'm just going to show you quickly that you can use any of these batteries here, as long as they're 12 volts. Any one of these types will work. So to give you a kind of shot of these are just ones that I've had laying about from different cars. What I would suggest is that you just use one that you know works. There's no good putting in a secondary battery if you know that it's just a bad battery, because it won't provide you with anything, any benefits. It needs to be at least a working battery. Okay, so I'm using a GoPro for this, just a little handheld camera. I'm going to show you the points that you need to install the secondary battery kit in, and which bolts and nuts you'll be loosening and tightening to install this kit. Because I don't have a mount for this kit, you won't be able to see me doing it, but I'm going to install it and cut back to when each of the parts of this kit are installed. Okay, so the first part of this is, if you see, this is the main battery cable, and we're in the rear compartment. I should show you this. So normally in the boot of the car, sticking all this amp for now and subwoofer. That was connected. I've just disconnected it for this video, so the wiring's simple. But this space here is where your battery's going to sit. I've taken it out because it's going to be the last thing that we're going to connect. The first thing is to get this kit installed. So here it is. So where this battery cable is, you need to undo this bolt, and it's a 10mm bolt. I've already loosened it with obviously a 10mm socket. So you'll need to use a 1/4 inch drive, I'll show you, and then you take that nut off. That leaves this free to come out. We're gonna leave it connected, because this is where our power cable's going to lie. The first thing that we're going to do is where this cable is. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see that, but there's usually a yellow rubber cap that goes over this threaded screw. So we take that off. So a nut is provided for you in the kit. It's an 8mm nut. And by the way, for this whole installation, you only need an 8mm socket and a 10mm socket. So we've attached the relay to the bracket. We undid this 10mm bolt. On top of the existing battery connection, we added our connection, and then we tightened down that 10mm bolt. And then for this fuse holder, we counted in 5 fuse spaces, took the fuse out at the 5th space, put that fuse in the piggyback holder, and then put this piggyback holder, inserted it into that place where that fuse once was. Then we took out this ground point. We call this our ground position. You can find another ground if you want. Anywhere on the chassis will do. But obviously the length of the cable here has been made and cut specifically to this length, just for a nice tidy install, because you can see how tidy all of this is. There's no like flapping wires around, which is the reason why it's nice to have all these wires cut to the proper length. Then we sanded off a lot of the paint so we could see bare metal, and then we inserted our ground point. There's a label on this connection that says ground point, so you know which one, and then it's just a matter of connecting our two terminals here. That's just our terminal socket. So we've got a terminal, negative terminal, we've got a positive terminal, and I'm just going to go fetch the battery now and then show you the last steps of the install. Okay, so when we drop our battery in, it's just going to rest on the like boot floor here, and you just got to make note of where our positive and negative connections here. Here's our negative connection, you can tell by that sign here, and there's a positive connection there. I've already connected this, I'll just take this off, but you'll see a positive mark there, but you see how easy these are to take on and off. And incidentally, if you want to add any accessories to your Range Rover, then you can undo these bolts here, feed any extra wires into this terminal, tighten these screws and the nuts and bolts down, and then you can, you know, run your amplifier and subwoofer and any other accessories that you want to put into the Range Rover. So that's how simple that is. I'm going to put this on, hit it down, you'll hear it snap into place. We've got our negative one. Try and do this with one hand. Like I said, I don't have a mount or anything for the camera, which I probably will get. And then we connect. It's just a hole where it goes over your terminal like that, and you just push down. You hear it connect into place. Now, obviously, even though this is a really heavy battery, it will still move around while you're driving, so we don't want that. So part of the kit will actually come with one of these ratchet straps, and you'll see if I just get into the car, I've got it hooked into the back at anchor points. If I use my torch here, then you'll see it's just a hook. I'll take it out. It's just a hook, and we just hook it into the anchor point there. And we'll actually say that this is a silver line ratchet strap. The ones that are in the kit are actually a higher quality than this, and they've actually got a rubber handle. I just don't have one to hand at the minute, but the one that you'll get in your kit will be a higher quality one than this, with a rubber handle, so it's going to make it easier to quick release and strap down. The other end of this hook is going to go to this latch here, and obviously these latches already exist inside your L322, and then we just pull tight on this slack, and then we just start ratcheting, and you see that it's getting quite tight, and this battery's not going to move now. You can make it tighter if you want, but that is definitely sufficient. And then it's just a matter of these cables. You're just going to be pushing down behind this little gap like this, push everything out of the way, and at that point we can insert our, I mean, it's a very tidy install. You can see that there's no like stray wires anywhere. Everything has got a place and it's cut to the right length, and that's the beauty of this kit, really. Okay, so that's the install complete there. You can see that I've left a little bit of slack on these wires when installing this cover back in, because you know, you don't want to trap the wires so much that they're pulling on these connectors here. But you'll see that this strap is tight enough to prevent it from moving left and right and up and down when you're driving. But that's the finished install for the secondary battery kit from Luxury Land Rover Upgrades.